and welcome to today's webinar, 4 Solutions to Improve Collaboration for Enterprise Teams. My name is Casey Marshall, and I'm on the marketing team here at Miro, and today I will be your moderator. I'll now pass it along to our lovely speaker, Iris Latour. Iris, take it away.
Thank you so much, Casey. I'm very excited to be here, and I appreciate the intro. So my name's Iris. As Casey mentioned, I'm Customer Success Manager at Miro. So that means that I'm responsible for developing trusting relationships with our enterprise customers. I work really closely with a range of characters from heads of design to product, IT to Scrum Masters, and from engineers to workshop facilitators. So my goal is really to understand the day-to-day rituals, the collaboration practices, and in particular the pain points that people encounter when they're working in cross-functional, remote, or siloed teams. And this is actually really fun because Miro has such a wide application. It almost feels like it could be applied industry agnostic. So I've worked with design consultancies, media companies, software companies, social media platforms. And I can tell you that at the end of the day, we all deal with really similar issues when it comes to collaboration. So I'm excited to explore these with you today and then provide hopefully some solutions and insights for improving the experience moving forward. So really briefly to talk about Miro, what we're all about is really empowering cross-functional discovery and brainstorming through an infinite canvas. We also have a robust set of widgets, pre-built templates, and some really powerful platform capabilities that I'll review with you today as part of this solutions conversation. So Miro is really about presenting an entire toolkit so that people can really plan out roadmaps, sprint planning, retros, and a lot more. We'll go ahead and play this video. So this is an example of the asynchronous as well as synchronous collaboration abilities that you have with Miro. So our goal is for you to really feel like you are in a space with everyone, even if you can't be there together. So it really helps with that brainstorming processes, workshops, decision making that otherwise might be more difficult if you are spread out, like a lot of us are nowadays. So to talk about today's goal, so especially in large organizations where teams are spread across the globe, change can feel pretty slow. Problems can feel really overwhelming, and it can even feel never ending, you know, working towards better collaboration. What does that really look like? So working with distributed teams and cross-functional departments will be an ongoing challenge. It's not always going to feel structured. The process of collaboration is inherently messy, and sometimes we have to embrace chaos to move forward even. So Miro is not a magic wand that solves this problem of collaboration. However, we do provide a space where teams can gain a cross-functional understanding, alignment, break down daunting communication barriers, and hopefully alleviate some of those everyday hurdles that we face. So my goal today is really help define and address some of these enterprise-specific pain points so that you feel prepared once you walk away to improve collaboration within your teams and have some really concrete action items to do so. All right. So as a customer success manager, I spent a large percentage of my time interviewing customers and consulting them through these large scale initiatives around organizational transformation that often become supported by Miro adoption. So we have these one-on-one conversations that focus on their collaboration goals, and really the goal is to define what success looks like and help them identify where their processes can be improved. So one of the questions I like to ask is, what is the main problem with enterprise collaboration? And I can tell you that the floodgates often just open, and I receive some really blunt answers. They are often accompanied with shrugs and shaking heads. Sometimes, you know, that's just how things go with large corporations. So this kind of emotional reaction signals to me how much of an issue it really is. So I'm just going to touch on a few of these really briefly. Too many tools I'm wondering if any of you have experienced this. You kind of don't know which tool to use in your ecosystem. You're hopping from tool to tool. Maybe you're collaborating with another team that has a completely different ecosystem. Knowing where to search through your emails, through your spreadsheets, through your files. I've seen this become a big pain point for a lot of teams. Another one is transparency. So personally, I think that this is really a communication issue. When important decision is made and you just kind of get passed along. You don't really know where it came from. It can sometimes feel like it generates a culture of distrust even. The slow pace of transformation, with these large scale, corporations kind of moving towards maybe design thinking or an agile transformation, it can kind of feel like it takes a really long time to get there. Turning insights into actions. How many of you have been in a meeting where everyone felt aligned, everyone had their assignments, and once people left the meeting, suddenly there were misunderstandings or people kind of forgot what they were supposed to do, having trouble kind of holding yourself and others accountable as well. The next one is connecting dispersed teams. So this is something that is going to become more and more common. We're leading in the direction of becoming about 50% remote. The workforce is going to be 50% remote pretty soon. So this is going to be something that we want to really take time to think about, is how do we make people feel less isolated, less siloed from each other when we're all kind of working from these home offices. The cost of time and travel. So this kind of builds off my last point that since we have so many people that are dispersed, how do we bring people together? How do we manage people's crazy schedules? How do you work with all the different time zones, booking flights, booking hotels, so that we can actually be in a space together where we can work together? So that's also a pain point that I'm seeing in a lot of these large scale organizations as well. And then the last two, I think are important to note too, the type A people dominating the conversation. So how many of you have been in a room where there's kind of one or two people that are just moving the conversation forward? And although the other attendees might have great feedback or great insights to share, they kind of blend into the background because there's not an opportunity to jump in and kind of dominate the conversation as certain people are doing. And then the last one, analysis paralysis. I also think this has a lot to do with communication. This can happen when there's not a clear owner or ownership kind of transfers during a project where people don't have this definition of owner. So a project kind of never feels like it moves from step to step and actually gets completed. So we're gonna do a poll. And my question for you guys is, what is the #1 collaboration problem that you encounter? And I'm going to set a quick timer. Let me go right here. I'm going to give you guys 40 seconds to answer. So go ahead and give your feedback there. All right, so we just tested out our Miro timer. So thank you guys so much for sharing your feedback. It's really helpful to kind of see what your reality is. So it looks like 53% of people responded with connecting dispersed teams. So this is definitely a big part of the issues that we deal with. So that kind of points toward large corporations either being global, having a lot of different time zones that you need to work with, or even certain teams being located in different areas and needing collaboration to happen, whether or not you're co-located. Getting feedback on certain bits of the process so that you can actually move forward with your project. So that's definitely something that I've seen a lot. And I guess tied for second place are the too many tools problem, as well as the slow pace of transformation. And I feel like the slow pace of transformation kind of goes in line with what I just described before, is that if we are dispersed, maybe we have different processes, maybe we're using all of these different tools and spending a lot of time, kind of finding the right way to do handoffs when people just use completely different tools or have completely different workflows to us. And so I do see that this comes up a lot in conversation, and I'm really excited to tell you that, even though you're dealing with this, you're not crazy, you're not a failure, you're tackling issues that hundreds of thousands of others of really smart and capable people are facing every single day. So hopefully today we can alleviate some of this frustration for you. All right. So I'm going to go back into presentation mode. What you guys see me doing right here too is something that I'll touch on later on in the presentation, is how to run presentations directly from your Miro board, which is what I'm doing right now. So what we're going to be talking about today are the 4 solutions to improving these collaboration issues for enterprise teams. So I just wanted to make a quick note that this is really inspired by a lot of the conversations that I myself and others on my success team at Miro have with our enterprise clients every single day. So they're rooted in real life situations, but to respect the privacy of my customers, for each I'll be using anonymized examples pulled from real people that I speak with on a regular basis. So I'll paint the picture of the current situation, kind of discuss certain workarounds that I commonly see, and then I'll dive straight into the solutions that Miro is positioned to provide. All right, so let's start here. Which of you has a workstation or has a colleague with a workstation that looks very similar to this? Notes scribbled everywhere, literally sticking Post-its to your computers with lists or reminders for where to find information, what to do. And then once we do find that information, how do you communicate the important next steps with team members who have different tool ecosystems? So what this generates is tool fatigue. I see this a lot with colleagues or people that I've spoken to. I've experienced this myself in my past, wasting time moving from tool to tool, facilitating and then refacilitating handoffs with other teams. It becomes you end up spending a lot of energy on those transitional periods instead of actually focusing on your work. And so this is just, even though this person probably has tool tracking systems, they probably have other tools that they rely on to actually get their projects moving forward, they're still using pen and paper to jot down the important stuff. So what I wanted to talk about was that Miro is not just another tool, we're really a team-oriented solution that facilitates transitions between workflows. And one of the ways that we do that, let me get out of presentation mode, is through the different apps and integrations that we offer. So right here you see an example of a few. MS Teams and Slack are really about connecting your different forms of communication with Miro, so that you can sit and never have to really remember where you've kept something. It'll all be in one place. Connecting with Google, OneDrive, Box, Dropbox, so that you can import files into Miro, as well as dual sync, so that you don't actually have to ever leave the platform, but you can trust that if you edit something in Google Drive, it'll be updated in Miro. If you edit something in Miro, it'll be updated in Google Drive as well. So I'm going to point us towards these 2 buttons over here. If you see the upload option right here, this is all the different places where I could potentially grab information from, and all these document storing solutions that you might have. And then right here, this is a really exciting place where you can see the different apps and integrations that we have. If you click on add more apps and just want to explore, I welcome you to do that. This kind of outlines the different apps and integrations that we have, and really a description for how to set that up and how to use that. The one that I really want to talk to you guys about, there's Envision, there's Sketch too, so you can kind of get feedback throughout your design process, for example. But I'm going to zoom in quickly on the Jira card integration, because I feel that this is really a place where we see designers and then engineers kind of taking tasks and being able to really track them, and then zoom out within Miro, so you're not just focused on the individual task, but really getting a large picture of what's going on. So I'm going to use the card tool right here. So this is going to be a task. I can add tags if I want. Let's say I want to make sure that I know that this is something that's my responsibility. Let's say it's a engineering responsibility, and I'm just going to go ahead and add those tags. And what I could do is go ahead and click on this Jira issue conversion button. So as I do that, it will immediately connect to my Jira, so I don't have to leave Miro. And if I just click convert, it now is converted into a Jira card. So this is now logged within my Jira instance, and I don't have to toggle back and forth. If I wanted to make edits directly from the platform, I would just click on the source button, and I can add descriptions here. I can change the issue type. I can add labels, priority. add attachments, and it'll all update directly within Miro. One other thing I can do is import from Jira directly. So this just saves a lot of time and a lot of back and forth. Connecting to a workflow that you might already have. Our Rally and recently came out with Azure DevOps. They're very similar experiences as well. And so you have all these cards that are now kind of reflected in this very visual way in Miro. I could even use this interactive template, the Kanban template, and place these cards within the template as well to kind of track my progress. And then these, if I make any edits to them, it's reflected directly in Jira. So the platforms are syncing, they're communicating, and I don't ever have to leave or worry that something isn't getting saved in one place and updated in the next. All right, so what I'm going to be talking about now is an example of trying to get a lot of people together to be able to collaborate. So look at this room of people. I would say that there's, I don't know, maybe 50 people in this room. We could probably all recognize this as an offsite. Maybe this happens once or twice a year. And these moments are really magical. It's a meeting of the minds, people physically getting together, working through complex problems, really getting aligned under the company vision. But then you have to think about the logistics, the cost of travel, the time spent planning the event, working with crowded schedules. Maybe not everyone is able to attend, so important voices are missed. Even if it's a very successful event, how do you ensure that these folks in the back of the room are able to fully participate as much as everyone in the front? So the solution that Miro provides is that we become the virtual meeting room that keeps us feeling connected and ensures that everyone is heard. So our goal is really to increase the frequency and ease of collaboration. So instead of having to work around these busy schedules and just try and find a time where people can, either get on a phone call or meet face to face, you just hop in a Miro board. You can work synchronously, asynchronously, get your work done, kind of work towards this common goal. And get there a lot faster and save a lot more time. So it really is about democratizing this collaboration, making sure everyone is feeling heard, breaking through these silos, and then saving travel costs. So one thing I'm going to show you, quickly exit presentation mode again, is I've embedded a link to some travel ROI numbers that we calculated. And this is just an example of a project that you could have on your board. If I had another participant come in, they could, add some stickies, move things around, and we could just do this simultaneously in the board together or asynchronously. But this is just something to really highlight the cost that you would save with Miro 2. So for example, if you have 2 events per year, 2 days each for about 50 people, this is what you end up spending per person or total actually for all those 50 people to be able to be in that room together. So you end up for these 2 events, 2 days, 50 people, spending around $372,000 a year. And with a Miro total cost being $15,000, you end up saving $357,000 a year. So if you just think about the headache, the time spent kind of organizing that around people getting into the same room, of course, Miro isn't saying, hey, we're going to replace that face-to-face. I think is super important, but you are still able to work through projects in a timely manner so that you're not relying on only being able to work at the same time face-to-face. So it just hopefully helps alleviate some of that headache as well. So the third solution I want to touch on is around the idea of standardizing common practices. So who here uses whiteboards in meetings? So I certainly do. And as you see here, this team is clearly following a process. They're using stickies to outline their approach to whatever project they're working on. But then you think, what's next? How do you connect what was discussed in this physical space and turn those insights into action? So these physical stickies, the truth of it is they become unsticky eventually. How do you make sure that you're not missing things that are literally falling off the wall? People are taking photos of their whiteboards, trying to capture important action items and then transfer them into digital next steps. Maybe that's in the form of a spreadsheet or task tracker, but there's a lot of nuances and meaning that could get lost in that transition. So it becomes really difficult to solidify these processes and then hold ourselves accountable for what we are responsible for. So Miro is a digital whiteboard where you can iterate and ritualize collaboration processes over time. This is a really exciting piece of Miro for me. I really love our templates, so that's what I get to show you right now. So right over here, let me draw your attention to the templates. If I click on this, this is kind of my favorite place to explore. We have 40 plus different templates that Miro has designed. You can also create your own, and I'll show you how to do that as well, and then save your own templates. But we have them divvied up by use case. So I'm going to pull up a retrospective. Let me see. Let's choose this one. So the stop, start, continue framework. I'm going to look at a preview, and there's a little description for how to use it. If I'm trying to figure out exactly how to apply this in my team, and I just go ahead and hit add, and so this uploads as a template. And as you can see, it's basically just built out of different shapes, some text boxes, and there's some post-its as well floating on top of it. So I'm going to take these post-its off right now, and let's say at my company, the way that we run retrospectives, we actually have a fourth step. And we're going to do start, stop, continue, and celebrate. I think that's a good one to add. So what I can do is just go ahead and add another step to my retro. I can color it, maybe change it up, and just really customize it to the way that my team will run this. And so now I have an entirely new template. So what I can do is then select all. And if you ever see these three buttons or these three dots as well, I advise you to click on them because it just allows you to explore a lot more within Miro too. But what I can do here is if I click Save as Template, I can give it a name, New Retro, and I can share it with everyone on my team. So this is just a really great way for if I'm following a certain process, if we're all trying to do this as a team and really standardize this moving forward, it's just a really quick and easy way to say, hey, I've saved our new template, let's go ahead and use that moving forward. So I go back into templates and I click on shared with team, and now I have my new retro, and I can add that onto my board. Some other things to note about using templates and kind of having these ritualized processes. You can set a timer like we did earlier. Let's say we're hosting a feedback session. I could just set the timer for everyone on the board. I can go to post-its, and I could go into bulk mode and add all of my feedback without anyone seeing. So I'm not distracting anyone while we're all giving feedback. So feedback 2, feedback 3, very creative feedback items. So let's say this is all my feedback, and I can go ahead and hit done, and then it just auto populates onto the board. Let's go ahead and stop this timer, stop for everyone. And I can, kind of move it around, assign it to the different tables or the different columns within the board. I can tag as well. So let's say that I would like to make sure that my feedback in particular is captured and people know that it was me who gave this feedback. I can just tag it with my name. Let's say you're a participant and you agree with something that someone posted. You could use an emoji to do a +1, and then that's recorded there. So it's just a really great way to kind of get those processes moving, going, and then at the end you have it all captured on the board without having to go back and forth between the physical and the digital. But if you are required to kind of connect those two worlds and you do end up needing to use a whiteboard and then import that information onto your board, there is a very sneaky way to do that, which is sticky recognition. And I really love this tool. I think I have a photo of some stickies on my computer. If I click on that, let's say I ran a session, it was in person. All these stickies are now recognized. If they miss one, I can go ahead and click that. That's now selected as well. And if I hit done and add to board, it'll now upload to my board. So I have a kind of a combination of the digital and the physical. So you don't actually have to completely rule out, sharing that physical space with your colleagues and actually working on physical whiteboards when you are able to. Awesome. Let's go back to my presentation. So the last point that I wanted to touch on is the idea of having a single source of truth. So look at this insanely complex program board. After something like this gets created, how easy is it to refer back to? Similar to the last point, it presents the hassle of translating the physical into the digital. We collaborate on something, we should be able to go back and track progress. Similar to tool fatigue even, there is such a thing as tab fatigue as well. So even if I am able to refer back to things, and if I have 100 tabs open and I'm kind of going back and forth, there is still a lot of time lost between kind of checking where I'm keeping all of my information stored. So this eventually can become a productivity bottleneck that keeps us from seeing progress in our projects. So the way that Miro is positioned to really solve this is that it becomes this tool for non-linear storytelling. It's this beautiful, visually appealing collage of everything that you need. So what you saw me do earlier is I used an embedded link to link to a project that I was working on my board, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Let me first get out of presentation mode. So again, these three dots, you can link to, and you can link it to any web page, you can link it to other Miro boards, you can even link to other items on the board. So let's say if I want to link it out to this project that I showed you guys earlier about the ROI, it auto generates a link and I just hit confirm. And now if I zoom back in, there's a link. And so even if I do have things kind of spread around the board, maybe they are living in other different web browsers, I can still kind of connect them on my board so I don't have to experience anxiety on kind of going back and forth between tabs and trying to find where I actually kept that information. So it becomes really easy to kind of situate yourself around the board, navigate around the board, and have this single source of truth. It makes having handoffs very easy. If you if you have part of your designs in InVision, you can pull them onto the board. If they're in Sketch, you can pull them onto the board. You can have people come onto your board and give you feedback directly on the board. It just makes it really easy to have these more cross-functional feedback sessions. And again, presentation mode. So I can have all these messy projects, and if I draw a frame around them, which is this tool right here, they now will be added in my frame section, and I can kind of track the presentation and present directly from my board, which just allows you to kind of keep everything in one place. So thank you guys so much for listening to me. I really wanted to remind you that collaboration, it doesn't happen in silos. It starts with connecting with other people. It starts with teams working toward common goals together. And I understand that it can feel really daunting. Some solutions are difficult to implement. It's important to remember that this is a journey, that it starts with the first step, and hopefully one of my points resonated with you and you're excited to try at least one of them out. So what I challenge you to do is go back to your teams and just try something out. And then once you do, share it with someone. Be open with your colleagues that you're working toward improving collaboration, and I'm sure that they would get excited to join you. And that's where it all starts. So to summarize, transforming collaboration culture is a journey, but hopefully with a few of these solutions that we've provided, like improving existing workflows, increasing the frequency of collaboration, and standardizing common practices, as well as developing a single source of truth, it'll kind of help you towards that end goal of really having a collaborative culture where information flows freely and people don't feel as isolated and more connected with one another.
Thank you, Iris, for taking the time to share these 4 solutions to improve collaboration for enterprise teams. And I hope that you all have a really great rest of your day.
Thank you so much.